Hello and welcome to Sync and Flow, the podcast with me, your host, Josie Thorne. I am a Red Tent Women's Circle facilitator, a womb healer, and feminine empowerment coach. I have been guiding women to embody their true essence through womb activations and feminine embodiment practices. I started Sync and Flow to help educate and connect women back to the wisdom of their sacred womb space and cyclical nature. I want to help all women reawaken to the true power of the feminine that lives deep within them, so that they may cultivate a relationship to self that is rooted in pure trust, divine love, and a deeply intuitive connection to the body. Thank you for being here and taking the time to listen to this podcast episode. I hope you enjoy. Yes, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm so excited to have the wonderful Mary Ann joining us today. So today we are titling this episode The Way of the Womb. And I am so excited to be chatting to Mary Ann as we actually did our Red Tent Facilitator training together back in March 2020. As the world was exploding in this COVID crisis, we were diving deep into our own womb space, into the way of the womb within our own body, and uncovering the powerful secrets of the divine feminine and the powers of the womb, the very magical powers of the womb. And I'm very excited to have her here today. So welcome, Mary Ann. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Joyce, for the invite. It's like a huge honor and a privilege. And you as a maiden, just the wisdom that comes out of you, I always am inspired. So when you asked me, I was like, this is a cool body, yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I would love it if you could just give the audience a little bit of context as to the work that you do with women regarding embodiment, dance, womb healing, all of that. Because, yeah, what you do is also very amazing for the collective and really helping to awaken that womb power within women.
Oh, this is so beautiful on how things came through. I started in 2020 with the Red Tent facilitation, and then it was really a guided intuitive journey. The womb wisdom together with embodiment brought me home. I was always up in the cosmos. That's where I like to be. I was not at all grounded. And what happens in terms of that is there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that happens. So you're not dealing with your humanness because you're not rooted. You're not moving through life either. So in many ways, I was really stuck. And the power of the womb wisdom, I had suffered quite badly with postnatal depression, which had completely severed my relationship with my daughter because I wasn't embodied. I also, the maiden journey to mother is a rite of passage where pretty much if you're not embodied within that and you're not ready to move forward, that's when postnatal depression happens. So for me, the embodiment literally was a lifesaver together with the womb wisdom, and the practices together were incredibly life-changing. And then I moved forward on my journey and I got into womb wellness, which is more your yoni steaming, yoni egg work, which is such a powerful, again, human connection to the sacredness of the divine. So my work really is a fusion of energetics. What I do is I use yoni steaming, I bring in the energetics, and then after that, I get you to embody the experience, because it's all fine and well that we can channel and that we pull down the intuition, but if there's not like a human interaction, then how can it be held in ourselves? So the embodiment then just brings it into the 3D, and then you're getting an experience where you feeling it instead of knowing that it's happened and trusting in the divine. And I'm really all about that. But when you can acknowledge within yourselves that there's a change, that makes all the difference. So it's all these practices that have brought me home that I use. And I see like guilt and shame in women so often. These practices and the practices of the womb, when we it's just a case of remembering who we are. Once we remember who we are, then we activate it within that power. And then
Mm.
this question you were asking me about bringing in the collective, I'm all about the collective. And the reason being is because I want to change. If we can heal the past, we can pave a way for the future. And
Exactly.
yeah, and there's a world that we can live in. We bitch and we moan about it. Like, I want to live in this utopia. I want to do this. Then you need to be doing something about it. And when
Yeah.
we all come together and put something into the collective, it changes that frequency. So that's why the more we come in and we change that collective, the more we moving in a world that personally, that I want to exist in. And if we build it together and we hold the energy of it together, we can live in the Aquarian age, which is so much better than what we're living in now.
Wow, thank you for that. I honestly got so many truth bumps and shivers while you were speaking. It's such powerful medicine to be on this journey and to, yeah, have gone through the traumas that you and I have both traversed and the dark nights of the soul, and not feeling like we have anything to support us out of it, and to come home to this medicine, the medicine of truly the body, is so healing on such a deep level. And I think that's why both of us are so passionate about sharing this with as many women as possible, because like you said, I feel like we often there's the sentiment that things just are the way that they are and they're going to stay like that forever, and things only change when you take that step. And it all starts with that self-awareness that I have something that I want to change, and using that as a divine momentum to move forward. But we cannot move forward, like you said, until we've healed the past and healed where we've come from, and looked at how those negative patterns have created our current present predicaments. So that's, yeah, thank you so much for that little introduction. It's really so powerful. And I would love to hear from your side, why do you think, because from my own personal journey, I've really seen that like womb wisdom for women is the foundation of all healing journey. Like we cannot be going to therapy and not, like, we should be doing therapy and womb wisdom and all these other different modalities, and including womb wisdom as that foundational base support, as I've spoken about in many of my previous podcasts and lives and content. Like if we don't have womb wisdom, then it's like a house. Like we cannot build ourselves and create ourselves within this world if our house is like completely broken and dusty and it hasn't been taken care of in a while. So I'd love to hear from you on a personal and what you've kind of seen working with your clients. Why do you see womb healing as such a necessary foundation for the healing journey?
It is the connection to the earth, it is the connection to the sky, and within that humanness is, like I said earlier, is how we can grow, is how we can evolve. So first of all, it's being present. It's talking to that space. Most people don't know what their womb even looks like. There's such a lack of education. Had I known that I needed to move from maiden to mother, again, this is all womb based, I wouldn't have experienced postnatal depression. This is the biggest thing about womb wisdom, is that heart connection, how you can open your heart space. I was living in a world that was completely closed off. And again, womb practices are about presencing. If we're not present, if we're not in the now, then our life is going to run chaos around us. And there's just so many practices. Like, we are cyclical beings. we think we've got to go and be busy, and being busy is good. Again, that presencing and that slowing down. If we listen to our body and if we move within the cycles, your whole life changes. I see people setting themselves up for failure on morning routines. This is my favorite thing to actually talk about. I'm like, you're never going to be running the same practice for 30 days. You're cycling completely differently. And there are some days you shouldn't even be doing that particular practice. But people just run, and it's this patriarchal thing of go, 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 instead of tuning into their body. So really, when it comes to womb wisdom, it's for me, the basics are presencing, sitting with your heart, sitting with your womb. What is in your heart right now? What does that mean for you? That immediately affects your body, your cells, where you're at. And then again, the first thing I give anyone is a sheet of the seasons and go and embody each season. Like if you don't do anything with womb wisdom and you do that one thing, that's life changing. So I don't know if that completely answered your question, but that's the way that it's embodied within my own life.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I love how you've touched on this patriarchal linear like trajectory that we've just been conditioned into, when actually us as women, we're so deeply cyclical. And like you said, we have the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycle, and that connects us to the divine, to the earth, to the cosmos, to the life around us. And us as women, like there's nothing that we have to do in order to be connected to spirit. Like I don't know if you've heard this, but they say that the only thing you need to do to be a shaman is be a woman, you know, because we have that like cyclical cosmology spinning around us constantly. Like our womb is this portal of life, death, rebirth. And I think there's a lot of misconception that women are just these life givers, and yes, that's a massive aspect of it, but if we have the power to give life, that also means that we have the power to take away life. And that is a deep responsibility within us that we are not embodied in, because unfortunately, and I'm sorry, I'm like segueing here, but it's just interesting to bring this up because the cyclical nature of the menstrual cycle is a life, death, rebirth process. And I think we live, because we are in that patriarchal linear conditioning, we live in this fear of, we begin and then we end. And we've been so conditioned to fear that ending, to fear that death, whether that's a soul death, a physical death, a ego death, you know, any kind identity death, you know, because we constantly changing, we constantly evolving. And I think there's no better medicine for that metaphor and for that process than the menstrual cycle itself.
I agree. And if people only knew what the power of their bleed is, it's massive. I used to, before this work, I used to hate my bleed. It used to be inconvenient. Now I look forward to it. And I take and I sit on my pelvic bowl and I'm highly intuitive, and there's beautiful downloads come through, and I don't run around doing anything, which again, it goes back to that go, go, go lifestyle. And I'm like, no, this is a time for me to receive like incredible wisdom. So if people, again, it's just, I think it always comes back up to lack of education. The fact that there's life force in our blood, and the ions that come out of our blood actually connect us to the ions of the earth. It's why when you give your blood to the earth, you feel that magnetic, like I remember the first couple of times, that magnetic pull is like undeniable. And if we lived like that and we gave back to the earth and we became more sustainable in what we're doing, again, we could just change the way we're living.
Totally. It's a complete paradigm shifter. And I do believe that's why women have been intentionally severed from their womb, because there's really nothing more powerful. I've witnessed this in myself, I've witnessed this in my clients, and I've witnessed this in the women's circles that I hold. There's really nothing more powerful than a woman in connection to her womb, in connection to her intuition, in connection to her divine feminine energy. Because a woman in her power in that way would never let her boundaries be crossed, would never let desecration of the earth, desecration of all that is sacred and holy in this life. And I think, the patriarchy wants women to be numb. The patriarchy wants women to be disassociated and stuck in our head, because that's where all these symptoms of anxiety and depression and overthinking and self-doubt and guilt and shame, like that's all sitting. If we're staying stuck in our head, that's just going to continue to loop and loop and loop, and until we get grounded into our truth, into our body, it's just going to keep sitting there and like coming at us again and again and again.
When you're in your power, you're not looking for approval. You're fully in your truth. Approval is one of the biggest things. I actually broke it down from a CBT therapy. And what truth comes down to is it comes down to not needing approval from somebody else. And I watched, like you say, your clients come in. These beautiful women come into my womb container and they come out fully in their truth. One woman over the last couple of months has written a book. The other woman
Wow.
had issues within her family. She used to be doing everything in her family. Her family are now taking responsibility, and she sits back and is running a really successful yoga studio. These women come in, but because they come back to what I was saying earlier, that remembrance of who they are within their own power, it is massive. It's huge. That for me is why I do this work, is watching these women come in and connect back to their power. And I agree with you. It's a lot easier to, if we keep us quiet, there's a lot more, there's a lot more control that's out there than we give credit for.
Yeah, totally. Because a woman in her power would never let that happen. And what I can see from, working with clients and in my own journey, my own experience, is that, like you said, your client like leaned back and, her family started taking care of her and started taking responsibility for, the roles that they should have been fulfilling, that she was actually just trying to be that superwoman. I really think the superwoman syndrome is such a big part of the collective feminine wounding, that we get conditioned that we have to live these individual lives and we have to be the best at everything, and the best mom and the best matriarch and the best breadwinner and this and that and like business and entrepreneur and like like pick up the kids from school every day and be present with them, which is like a whole nother journey in itself. Motherhood is like a whole role, job, and identity all in one, and I feel like we come from such a big conditioning where that is so degraded, and motherhood is really not honored in the deep spiritual way that it should be by our society. But I think it's like that deep inherent trust is what's needed to be able to lean back in the first place. And there's no better way to find that trust by connecting with your womb. Like for me, my womb has become my best friend that goes with me everywhere. And if I feel scared, if I feel lonely, if I feel confused, if I feel, angry, or whatever emotion is running through me, I know that I can always connect back to my womb. And even if she doesn't always have the answers for me, or I can't receive the answers in that moment, like I know that she's there. And just that power, that activation, like feeling that Shakti within, it's just so reassuring, like relieving on such a deep level. And that's why I teach this work. I just want women to feel that deep relief of like, babe, if you've got yourself, Like no one else can take that away from you. No one else can take that confidence. No one else can take that support. Like you've got yourself, you support yourself, you love yourself, you hold yourself. And the womb will give back to you for holding her. It's like this really beautiful reciprocal relationship that gets formed between you and your womb. And if you are not taking care of your womb, then your womb's not going to take care of you. And so it all starts with tending to your womb and connecting with her and being deeply present on an energetic and physical level. And once that connection gets established, that's when we can actually feel like we can trust, we can lean back, we can allow ourselves to take a deeper breath, be more present, slow the fuck down, and just, really acknowledge ourselves in every moment to moment. Because I find that so many women don't even realize how they are operating from this scarcity, fight or flight mindset. And it's so embedded, I think, in our patriarchal culture. And I feel like before womb wisdom, I had no idea what it meant to be regulated. I was just living this life stuck in my head, stuck in all this airy, flighty energy. And honestly, I did not even know what it meant to be regulated, Like I thought I was calm and cool and collected. But when you actually start to regulate yourself through the power of the body, through the power of practice, meditation, yoga, all these embodiment practices, it's like, wow, like that's what it means to be able to relax.
Exactly, and I love what you said, because that means we can root. We are
Mm,
rooted within
mm,
it.
mm,
And then we become unshakable, because when you're rooted, everything else can move around you, but you grounded in. So the chaos can move, but you grounded, you in your truth, you're in your presence. All the things exactly that you've been saying now are massive.
mm,
I remember meeting you, and the difference between you sitting here grounded and within yourself is massive. I remember
mm,
myself in that same facilitation. I was very nervous. I was a trauma facilitator then. That's actually the work that's my background. And
mm.
I was exactly that. It's all cosmos, no root.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so, so important. Like we don't realize that you can only fly as high as you are rooted down into the earth. And the earth has so much medicine. And I honestly believe like all these conversations are so weaved and really stem from that disconnection from the earth mother, from Gaia, from nature, but also from our own true nature. Um, because the red tent was this practice that we were severed from that really initiated women from the day of menarche, from their first bleed, into this depth of wisdom, into their womb. And as a society, we lost connection to that because of patriarchal domination and destruction and violence. Because the patriarchy knew that women only spaces are powerful, and that's where women empower themselves and empower each other. And by not having that, we lost so much ancient wisdom, so much ancient truth, so much connection to the earth and ourselves. And being rooted in our womb is that foundation. Like I really see the womb as like the root chakra and the sacral chakra, they actually work together, like they work in tandem, I feel like. And so you need to be actually focusing on healing them together, and they both are actually like the roots of the tree. I almost see like the root chakra as the deeper roots, and then the sacral is like the base of the tree, almost like the surface roots, where the base of the tree almost like meets the surface of the earth and starts to come out. And so if those two aspects of self are not addressed, not healed, not cleared, then we're going to be just these walking shells of ourselves, because there's so much trauma that is stored in that place. I mean, I feel like it took me a solid like 4 years of working with all that trauma that was stuck in my roots. And I mean, this is why I'm so encouraging of young women to take charge of their healing journey, because the longer you put off addressing that childhood, past, generational, parental trauma, like the harder it is going to be to clear, the longer it's going to take. And so I wondered if you had any advice for any woman starting their healing journey and wanting to delve down these paths, but almost feeling a bit hesitant, maybe a bit scared, maybe a bit fearful of what may come up, because I feel like that's often the subconscious fear that women have of attending tents, of attending women's circles, of seeing coaches like you and me. It's like they know that they have things that need to be worked on, that need to be healed, but they're worried about what's going to come up.
Sister circle, I will support, and sisterhood for me has been key to my healing journey. So find yourself.
Amen.
That's what I would say. And if you don't resonate with the circle of sisters, and you go into this and it doesn't resonate, take a step back and find a different sisterhood. There are so many different sisterhoods out there. I've got Womb Unity. I know you've got from Sync and Flow. So if you're scared, just come to Josie. And the power of sisterhood is that people are scared because they don't like to be vulnerable. Why don't people like to be vulnerable? Because they fear judgment. And within these spaces, within the correct spaces, there is no judgment. You are then seen, heard, and felt. Those three things have changed my life. Being seen, heard, and felt by people. The right people need to hear your story. Brene Brown, I forgot the quote she uses, but she says, share your story, but share it with the right person. And really within sisterhood, you are sharing with the right person. And then when you're ready to journey, the thing is, the one thing I'll say about Womb Wisdom is I can even remember the advert at the time to join the Womb Wisdom. It calls you. And then I've watched this with all my clients. They play it against themselves. They say yes, and then they no, and then they yes, and then they no. That is perfectly normal. But it's a calling that if you don't join the first time, trust me, your intuition is going to keep on calling you back because you're ready for this journey. The feminine is chaotic. Once you say yes to Womb Wisdom, your life is going to change. Say yes, and the chaos within the feminine is going to run itself fivefold. I can guarantee it. I watch it with my ladies. But what you get on the other side is you get more of you, the truth of who you are. But I would say go find a sisterhood first. And Josie and I are both here, and we will put you in the right direction if virtual's not your thing and you want to be in person. I've been training women to run circle because that's potent. And my vision for the world is to have sister circles all around the world. And I know that's many different women's vision, especially if you're a Red 10 facilitator, because the more circles that we have, the more we are seen, heard, and felt in our darkest moments. And then I watched something last night which was so beautiful, and they were talking about it's in your darkest moments that you become the light. So we all focus on this, oh, this is so airy-fairy, this is so beautiful, but it's through our darkness that we learn, it's through our darkness that we grow, and then we become through that process.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's that fear of death that comes up, and if we don't acknowledge the power of death, the necessary role of death in our lives, how are we ever going to grow and move forward and become who we're meant to be? Because we can't bring these childhood traumas along with us the entire way. It's like carrying this dead weight, this dead baggage. And I love that you spoke so deeply into the power of sister circles, because women's circles really have honestly changed my life. It's come to a point where I hold them not for anyone else but myself, because I get so much deep medicine from hosting them and from participating and from being just around women in such this deep, raw, vulnerable way. I feel like that's really what my soul has been craving my entire life, is to have these deep conversations with women that aren't projection, that aren't like, that are devoid of projections, that are free of, just like you said, that judgment, that shame, that guilt that so often comes up when we are socially interacting with people in not sacred spaces. Yeah, wow, it's really so healing. If you, and I'm speaking to all you viewers now, like, if you have the power to join a women's circle, please take that. Like, honestly, it will change your life. And if you just show up, you've already done, 80% of the work is showing up. And that is honestly the hardest part, because once you show up, you will realize, like, and you will almost want to kick yourself for not going sooner, because you'll see like how much fun there can be, how light, how mellow, how much like lighter you feel when you walk out compared to when you came in. And that is an experience I want for every single woman to have, the power of sisterhood, and especially the power of strangers. It's like you come in as strangers and you leave as sisters, and that for me is a massive transformation in itself. Yeah, wow. Hmm. Yeah, as we close up, I just want to maybe, maybe you have a few more tips and tricks for women in connection, wanting to start this connection to their womb space, but just some practical things that they can start incorporating into their daily lives.
So the easiest thing to do is to begin speaking to your womb. This sounds very woo.
That is actually really great.
And you will
And you
respond.
will
And you
respond
take
and
one
you have
hand
one hand
in
on
your
this one hand on
heart
heart
and your brain, and just
just
notice.
notice anything that comes up for you.
And then when you're ready, you can take your other hand and
Place it on your space.
and just to sit and bring that awareness, even if you don't feel or see or hear anything in the beginning, that practice on its own. Track your actual cycle, so you'll see when you're cycling, and track your mood with your cycle. And when you track your mood with your cycle, you'll actually notice how it's changing, and you develop patterns, and then at certain times of the month you're going to feel fabulous in that week, and then you plan your life according to how you feel, so that you don't feel like you're bumping your head against
A brick wall.
those
I
are
would say
possibly the
those are possibly the two things I use more than any other.
Totally. The power of cyclical living is so underrated. It honestly, like you said at the beginning, can change your life just by learning to be in tune with your body, rather than going for this cookie cutter linear patriarchal mold that we have been programmed to live our lives through. So yeah, that's really, really beautiful. And like you said, with the meditation, for those of you watching and listening, I have a free heart womb meditation on my YouTube channel that you can go and listen to. And if you are feeling sensations of numbness, know that that is also a sensation. Like, just observe the numbness, be with the numbness, be with the nothingness, and slowly that too will start to change, because what you give your energy to and your attention to will transform. There's no doubt about it. That's the way that energy works. It's the universal law. And when we can sit in connection with our womb space in love and witnessing from a state of 0 point neutrality, that's when we can actually start to see what comes up and work with that on a tangible level.
Josie, there's also one more thing I wanted to mention.
Please.
What sanitary products are you using? This is
Oh, yes, babe.
one more tip I want to give you. If you're using tampons, get rid of them now. Tampons, the energy needs to move down, it needs to move out, it needs to flow through. So things like
Sanitary pads, period panties.
use those instead of something else, and maybe using
organic friendly sanitary pads.
bleach in the other
Sanitary pads.
So
Yeah.
again, that energy needs to flow down and through.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I thank you so much for bringing that up. That's actually such a massive aspect of womb care, womb wisdom, womb wellness is how are we taking care of ourselves on our bleeds, and what products are we using, because we need to, like you said, use products that enhance the natural flow. We have this apana energy flow that wants to flow downwards and out. And your vulva wants to feel your blood on, like, flowing on it, and touching it. And, if you are struggling with feeling disconnected to your bleed, please don't hesitate to reach out to Marianne or I, because that is going to really be something that we can help you work with and to heal, because there's no point in living a life as a woman hating your body and these natural, sacred, beautiful processes. Like, it's a waste of your energy. It's a waste of just unnecessary trauma in your body that you're holding on to. Oh, Tasha says here, I find menstrual cups to be the worst. That suction is so aggressive.
There are
cups that will affect your body.
I'm a big
fan
of a free
blanket. If you're at home, place it under you.
Organic sanitary pads. Yeah, just make sure that it's flowing out. Period panties, do your research before you buy. There are some that are amazing, there are some that are absolutely terrible. But do what works for you. This is the thing, our bodies are unique. What works for some person definitely doesn't work for another person. I think cups are amazing in catching your bleed. I think a lot of use them for that. But I'm very much about let it flow out, let it keep flowing. Also, anything you're blocking that energy. If you're putting something there, allow it to release, allow it to flow out.
Totally, yeah. So just be very mindful with what products you are using. And if you are confused about that, please also reach out to either one of us. Our DMs are always open, and we're always here and happy to chat about anything womb and period related. It's really like it makes us both so happy, I think. And we both get so excited about this work because it's honestly life-changing. So thank you, Marianne, for sharing your wisdom with us. It's been such a blessing. I'm so grateful to have had this time with you. I love you, sister, so much. Thank you for all the work that you do.
And you, sister, and you. You are so rooted, the most wisest maiden ever. old soul that when I met you, even then wisdom would flow out of you.
Oh, thank you, sister. I love you. All the best. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode and engage with all the wisdom that was shared. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to leave a review on your podcast platform of choice, as this really helps this wisdom reach new people. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to reach out to me via Instagram DM or send me an email. You can follow me on my personal account on Instagram at Josie, Josie _Thorne, THORNE, or you can follow Sync and Flow, my business accounts, at Sync, that's spelled SYNC _in_flow. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or queries you may have. Otherwise, get in contact to book a free discovery call to start your self-healing spiritual journey today. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now, loves.